Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's version of Sip and Chat. For those of you who don't know what sip means to drink slowly. So for tonight, I have my water and I'm sipping my water. And usually we talk about that when having coffee with friends, and it's a very relaxed environment. This is a conversation group. I'm recording this video separately so I don't show all the students that were there tonight. But we had 11 students tonight, so now I'm sharing it with you. All right, so people ask me why I'm doing this, and I'm doing this because I want to keep in touch with my students. I want to give them some instruction for free. Not everybody can afford to pay me for tutoring, and I really like my friends, my student friends, to meet my other student friends, and I want to give them some practice speaking. So today's topic is about this guy. This is a monster, my monster. This is what I look like in the morning. Not really. But if I have this monster and I want to make two sentences, I might say these two sentences. Now, I asked people in the class to say these two class sentences, and they might have said, well, they did. They said, the monster is close, and please close the door. But actually, when I say it as a native English speaker, I say the monster is close, and please close the door. You might notice a difference between these two sounds. The first one is close, and the second one is clothes. Sorry, close. And it's the final sound that's different. But like many words in English, you can't understand how to speak the word from looking at the spelling, because as you can see, the spelling is exactly the same. So you can't speak from looking at the spelling. So here I'm here tonight to tell you what the rule is, so you know how to speak. So what's the rule? Do you know the rule? Well, the answer is there is no rule. There is no rule. Close, the monster is close as an adjective is with a s sound. And please close the door is the verb, and it has a z sound at the end. There's no reason for this. There are other words in the English language that have different sounds. Usually these words are, sometimes these words are spelled differently. One example that was brought up in the class was advice and advise. These two words have different spelling. They also have a s and a z sound, but they have different spelling. But the spelling doesn't really help you, because advice, the first word, is the end sound has a C, and it doesn't sound like a k sound, it's a s. And the second one, advise, which is the verb, has an S in the spelling, but you pronounce it with a Z sound, or Z if you're not in the United States. So really, you can't learn how to say a word from the spelling. So let me help you a little bit more. This is often the case with plural nouns. Plural nouns. When we use a plural noun, a thing, we add an S to the end of it. It always looks like that. It's always spelled with an S or an ES, but the sounds may be different. So the topic tonight is clothing. So let's look at a couple of these words. For example, what is this? Here, let me help you with the, so you might say shoes, shoes. Here's another example. Sweaters, sweaters. Socks, socks. Dresses, dresses. These are the plural forms. So if you're looking at the words, to add a plural, you add an S or an ES. So what's the rule for whether that final S sounds like a S or a Z? Here we see the words with the S's highlighted. So I'm going to say these words to you and you tell me which ones, or you think which ones have a Z sound. Socks, sweaters, shoes, dresses. Which ones are the Z sound? Well, hopefully you recognized and you heard that 3 of them are sweaters, shoes, dresses. All 3 of those have a Z sound. Socks is a S sound. Dresses is a little bit different because if you look at the singular and the plural, you'll notice that it also has an additional syllable. For example, dress is 1 clap, dress, but the plural, dresses, is 2 syllables, dresses. So that's even a little bit different. So now you're probably completely confused about which ones, how do you know whether it's a S sound or a Z sound? Well, first let's talk about how to make the S and the Z sound. So I have this picture and I took it from another site, which I have listed. If you look at the way the mouth works, when you make this, think about how your mouth, your tongue, your position of your lips, how those are positioned when making this. So for example, if the word is sue, sue, where is the tongue? Sue. The tongue is behind the teeth, close to the teeth in the front. It's not at the back. And you may notice that the sides of the tongue are curl up a little bit. Sue, sue. If you look at the Z sound, there's a similar word, zoo, zoo. You might notice that it's exactly the same mouth position, but there is one difference. Sue, zoo. One of them has vibration. Sue, zoo. Which one is that? Well, it's zoo. So actually, sue and zoo are actually sister sounds. It's the same muscle movement, the same movement in your face, but there's one small difference, which is the vibration. Sue and zoo. So what's the rule? I did tell you I would help you with this. So there is a rule. I'm going to tell you the rule, and then I'm going to tell you why you can forget the rule. And I don't mean forget, but it's that it's not important to remember. Okay. And here you have to do, in order to understand this, you have to do this. That's why I have a picture of a guy holding his neck, because this is how the pronunciation works. It works based on the final sound of the singular noun. For example, I'll look at the S sound, which is the no vibrate sound. Okay, the no vibrate sound, if we, here, I'll put a, there, that's what I'm looking at. The end sound on the singular for the first one is T, T, pant, T. And you'll notice if you do this, that pant, the T sound, there's no vibrate. So in the plural, it is also no vibrate, the S sound, pants. Same thing with tops. The final sound is the P sound, P, P, no vibrate. Therefore, the plural is also no vibrate, tops, tops. Socks, the final sound, K, 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 no vibrate. The plural is also no vibrate, socks. If you look at the Z sounds, it's the same pattern. Sweater, sweater. Let me move my, let me move this, oops. There we go. So sweater, you'll feel that it's a vibrate sound. So the plural is also vibrate, sweaters, sweaters. I'm going to skip trousers because it's the same final sound. Clothes, clothes. Very hard to say. Sometimes we don't even say the close, but it's all vibrate, okay? So the answer is, if the singular ends with a no vibrate sound, then the plural is also the no vibrate sound. Similarly, if the singular ends with a vibrate sound, the plural is also the vibrate sound. If the singular noun ends with a s sound, such as in dresses, so dress, you add an es, and it sounds like is, and that's the only way that your mouth can do it, because you're going to say dresses. You can't say dress, because that you just can't do it. So it's actually a natural way to pronounce dresses, dresses. Okay, so that's a special rule. You can count on that. It will always be that. If it ends with an S, then it definitely will add another syllable. Add another syllable. Okay. The reason you can forget this completely is because nobody made up these rules. This is the natural mechanical way that your mouth produces these sounds. It's much easier to go from a no vibrate sound to a no vibrate sound. If you try to say, for example, if you try to say sweaters, it's really hard. Sweaters, that's really, really hard. You almost have to go sweaters, okay? Your mouth naturally goes from the r to the z, because it's easier to go from a vibrate to a vibrate sound, from a vibrate sound to a vibrate sound. So your mouth is going to do that naturally. But now you know the rules, and if you want to, you can tell all your friends and you'll seem really smart. Okay? That's our lesson for today. Now I'm going to put my students into groups, and they can discuss their favorite piece of clothing and practice their s and their z sounds. Bye.